Hi guys, and welcome to the Life Switch Show with me, Adam Kawalec, as your host. I am super pumped to be here with you guys. This is the premiere of the show, and this is an interview format show where we're going to be talking to a lot of different people, sharing their lessons, their breakdowns, breakthroughs, and beyond in life. We are talking about what's behind the space of humanity with master coach Basia Henderson. So that's coming up. Stay tuned. And here we go. Hi, Basia. Welcome.
Hi, Adam. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I am super glad to have you here. I have to be honest, like I'm super excited. And before I let you really get into it, I just want to say a few things about you, Basia. I am super grateful for you being on the show. You're my first guest, so that's even more special. And also, I actually know you. I've gotten to know you over the past year and a half almost, where I got to know you in the role of a coach, a colleague, and friend. And so to me, it was a no-brainer to reach out to you and ask you if you wanted to be on this show. And for anyone listening right now, Basia Henderson, the wonderful woman on the screen right now, she is a life and business coach, and she's got over 10 years of experience learning and developing, and she's helping her clients to reach their potential and creative capacity, to expand that and to help them achieve and deliver remarkable results. And she does that helping them to do those things without necessarily sacrificing their health and relationships. And one thing that I'm super grateful for Basia's perspective on this is that she says success without fulfillment is pointless. And from my experience, this is exactly what she helps her clients achieve, that success through fulfillment. So, of course, I'm glad to have you on the show, Basia.
Thank you for this beautiful intro, Adam. And I'm so honored to be the first guest, actually. It's going to be fun.
Definitely. I hope it is. I mean, this is definitely one of those ways where I get to be more creative in what I do, and I'm so glad to have found this beautiful outlet for it. And I mean, the topic today is, it's something that I personally like. I might not have that big understanding or knowledge about, which is exactly why I want to have that conversation with someone like you. Now, what that means, we are going to explore during this call. I just want to say to anyone who is here on this live show right now, if you're on Facebook watching this or if you're on YouTube watching this, please make yourself known. Like, comment where you are in the world listening into this. That way we get to see who's who and where you are. And during the show, if you've got any questions for myself or Basia on any of the topics that we're talking about, you can also use the comment sections on Facebook or on YouTube. And those comments will be sent to us on this live, and that way we can interact with that and we can help answer some of your questions. So if you're watching this live, just comment in your sphere of whatever platform you're on right now. All right, cool. So Basia, can you just, I'm curious, and I'm sure that other people are as well. What would you say about yourself? Like, who are you? What are you doing right now in the world? And as much or as little as you feel comfortable sharing on this live.
Cool. Okay, so professionally, I'm a transformative coach, life and business coach. I work with so many different types of clients, people, leaders, professionals, and business owners in various industries. I've been working with people in education and wellness and healthcare, legal, financial, oil and gas, with coaches, psychologists, like all sorts of clients, and it's really fun to work with different types of clients. because I get to actually learn and expand.
Mm.
So at the moment, this is my main focus, my coaching. Um, I'm also a wellness therapist, a remedial and sports therapist, working with athletes, including professionals. But at the moment, obviously, due to COVID, I haven't been able to actually fully practice that. So like through the whole last year, it's been really on and off. But I love that part of my work as well. And I have also been teaching, lecturing and tutoring at massage therapy courses at university here in Glasgow. But it's obviously also on hold at the moment. So coaching is my main focus. And a little bit more about me. You might actually hear that I have a little bit of an accent. So I'm Polish. I was born in Poland, and I moved to Scotland when I was 20 years old on my own. So quite a change in life, just going with your life switch theme. I've I feel like I've had a few switches in my life, a few kind of big changes and transformations. So that was a big one, moving from Poland to Scotland. And I haven't always been a coach, but for the past 10 years, I have always been in this kind of learning development space where I was actually working in different professions. Before coaching, I was in commercial properties, in research. And before, like long time ago, when I was at university, I was working in hospitality, and somehow always whatever jobs I was doing, I would always fall into the role formally or informally into coaching, teaching, mentoring, or training people. So I think I have it in my blood somewhere, or some say I have maybe vocation for it, to help people grow and develop and expand, and just brings me so much joy. So that's a little bit about me.
That's great. Thank you very much, Pasha. Well, I really honor you for that. I mean, it's something that stood out from all the things you shared, all the things that are going on in your world right now, the things that you've done in your past. Would you say it's a calling for you to be a coach or to be helping people?
It does feel this way. It does feel this way because, I really, before I even knew what coaching was, before I even knew that there was such a profession, I mean, obviously, we all know that coaching is, a popular thing in sports. I actually, when I was living still back home in Poland, I actually I trained in martial arts, so I had a coach, well, sensei it's called, but it's like, so I was familiar with that, but I didn't know about like what's life coaching, business coaching. But even before I knew, I somehow was really drawn into helping people grow, expand their potential. I remember, I don't know how many years ago, but I want to say probably about 10 years ago or so, I kind of got familiar with the law of attraction. It's not something I incorporate in my work right now, but that was kind of like the very start of my, journey of like personal, professional, and spiritual development. And in law of attraction, they talk about doing vision boards. So 10 years ago, I created a vision board, and I remember finding this vision board like some years ago, and there was this picture there with two people, one person standing at the top of the mountain and extending a hand to the other person to pull them to the top of the mountain. And I put in the description something like, I help people become the best version of themselves and live fulfilling lives and achieve success, or something like that. So clearly that was my calling before I even knew what it was.
Yeah. Then I think that is the definition of a calling then.
Mm.
That's great. So, well, you brought something up interesting, even though it might not be part of your coaching practice. You mentioned the law of attraction. What I mean, it's more than just vision boards, as far as I know. Is there a way for you to summarize it in your own words? Like, what is the law of attraction, and what role did it play? Obviously, it showed you something way back with your vision board. How else has it, served you or shown up in your life?
I don't know. I'm definitely not a law of attraction expert, but and I think there's a lot of kind of misunderstanding out there about the law of attraction. I think some people kind of have this simplified understanding about it and think when they visualize something and they just sit on the sofa, they're going to manifest this thing, right? Like I think it started from the movie The Secret, right? And I think some people actually just didn't quite understand it. Okay, but if I was to explain it, definitely it is true about manifesting into our lives things that we want to manifest, and it all happens through thought, through the power of thought. So when we think about something, at first it's formless, it's just a thought, it's an idea, it's an energy, basically a vibration, if you will. And then through thoughts, through the power of thought, we can then bring it into form. So I suppose we attract the things into our lives that we think about. So I think maybe that's a very simple description of the law of attraction, but I think that's how it is.
No, I like it. I like it. It reminded me of something that I heard not long ago on a podcast where they were talking. Well, this guy, his name is Chris Lee. He's an American Puerto Rican coach, life coach. And he has some background in the law of attraction and that sphere. And he said, and he might actually have, these days, he might actually be more aligned with maybe what you're into in terms of your coaching principles. But he talked about the nature of thought is that whatever you think of or about expands. So, I mean, what you just said, it kind of like resonated with me in that way. Would you say that there are some parallels to that, or is it completely off?
No, I would say if we think about something and we give power to it by focusing on it, by giving it more thought, it definitely does expand. Yeah, I would. That's absolutely true. They say what you focus on grows, and that the focus is through thought.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like, what you water will grow. So it's kind of that thing, like if you're using your thoughts to water the plant of something, obviously that's going to grow stronger. So okay, yeah, this is a great topic. Like I just want to get into the details of this, but I guess I'm just going to refrain from that for a while, and I'm sure that we're going to go back into it. Okay, so you mentioned that you've had a couple of switches in your life before, and you mentioned some of them. When did you know? I mean, you had your experience quite early on that you wanted to help people achieve the best version of themselves and fulfillment in life. When did you actually make the leap, take the step to becoming a coach?
Okay. So actually the coaching, my first experience with coaching happened in the corporate world still. When I was in commercial properties, as I said, I used to always fall into the roles of, helping people develop. So even though I was in the research role, that was my main role in like in the commercial property industry. But I was actually on secondment into the learning and development team. So it wasn't a permanent role, but whenever we had new intakes or whenever we had any training needs within the company, I would be, involved in this role in training. So as part of that, and also because I was on the path to management role, I actually got involved in coaching, training, together with the leaders in the company, actually. So that was my first training to become a coach, and it was quite I would say basic in a way that it wasn't like deep coaching, it wasn't life coaching, it was actually performance coaching. So it was like based on the excuse me, on quite a basic kind of coaching model, but it just kind of really, it just became interesting for me. And then when I decided to leave corporate in 2017, I always had it in the back of my head that this is something I, dreamed about years ago, and maybe I could actually do it. I didn't quite know what it would look like. This huge imposter syndrome at first, like how would I do it on my own? And, who am I to be coaching people? And so it was all this happening. So actually my first business was the wellness business, the remedial and sports therapy business. From 2017, and then in 2018 I decided, what, this is what I really want to do, and I started talking to people about it. It felt quite edgy because I wasn't really properly trained, I would say. I didn't have like a coaching diploma, and I at that point I was learning a lot from just on my own, reading and watching a lot of kind of master coaches coaching other people. So I had an idea, but I kind of only started doing it myself at the end of 2018, and yeah, I started getting really great feedback from people. I coached some really high performers actually back then, and they were saying, "Oh my goodness, like you helped me so much, had amazing insights. You should do it as your main business." So then I went to actually do my coaching training diploma in 2019, at the beginning of 2019, and yes, and here I am. And I have to say, actually, last year, even though I know it's been quite a challenging year for many people, it's been a huge blessing for me, because I couldn't really practice for quite a long time. Quite a big part of last year, I couldn't practice my remedial and sports massage therapy. I then focused on coaching. I actually hired my coach early last year, and we've worked together one-on-one for the most part of last year, and he really helped me grow my coaching practice. So yes, so here I am now.
Yeah. I mean, you're definitely not new to this. I mean, with all your background, your experience, and all of that, it was more like you just kind of started owning your gift. It sounds to me like, at least, because you
Yeah,
definitely you worked in the realm of being a coach and supporting people already way back in your corporate environment or background. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm not surprised you're where you are right now.
Yes, actually, to speak to this, I think, and I coach now coaches who are kind of at the beginning of their journey, and I very often hear from them, it's like, I feel so insecure because I'm a beginner, I haven't done it before. But these are people who are like, I have been working with someone who has been a leader, in a really a big company, Microsoft, and so like, if you get to the leadership position within Microsoft, you have to have some kind of set of skills, and also, coaching is one of the skills of a good leader, right? So but coaches are not just using the skill of coaching, like asking questions and listening. We use our whole experience, I would say, from childhood through all the activities that we did as kids, as teenagers, and then education, and then any jobs that we've done before. We use it all, and also our personal experience. I guess I would say probably most people who are in the coaching industry, at least I come across, or also like therapists and people who are in this profession of helping others, who are kind of light workers, if you will, they have had some experiences in their lives that actually made them search for something, for some either meaning, or they were on their healing journey. And that was very much my experience. I had some traumatic experiences in my childhood, in my younger years, that pushed me really to achieve all the things I achieved in my professional life and my personal life. And obviously there were so many, I would say, mindset shifts and transformations, and all these things, they are the things that I'm using now in my work, on all this experience, with the understanding that I now have added to it, the understanding of how we really operate as humans, how we create our reality as humans, But yeah, everything counts, I would say, when you're a coach.
So that is interesting, and it kind of what I wanted to dive into, a couple of minutes ago. You kind of opened up again around that. Like, is there any way for you to tell me or tell us a little bit more about that understanding of yours, of what it means to be human, and possibly what's beyond that? And let me just put a disclaimer there. I'm not necessarily talking about the afterlife, although, right? Because I was mentioning to you, Basia, that when I proposed the title of the show, my brother instantly I'm going to watch that because, afterlife and all. But I just find that interesting, the humanity piece of things. And I know that you have your own very powerful distinction around humanity and divinity, although maybe that's not what we might talk about so much, but this understanding, I'm curious.
Cool. Okay. So first of all, yes, I'm not an expert in the afterlife. I haven't been there yet. Well, not that I remember. I guess I have been there. I kind of believe that I kind of believe in the reincarnation, but it's a completely different story, right? We're not talking about it here. So maybe I have been there, but I don't remember. So let's not talk about that. I'll tell you about what I know here. So okay, so this understanding, so my work is at the moment hugely based on the understanding of how we create our reality from the inside out. It's called the 3 principles, but it's or different description is the inside out understanding of it. So basically it's in very simple terms, it says we create the experience of our life through our thoughts. So we live in the feeling of our thinking, which is quite, it's quite, excuse me, it's quite a big deal to understand it for people who believe that life happens to us and they think that we experience the circumstances out there, or we experience the relationships out there. That we, that if someone does something to us, this is what we actually experience. I find this, excuse me.
Don't worry, take a sip of water. It's good.
So I learned this not to be true. I learned that anything that we experience in our life, in our business, is our thinking. So anything we experience is through the filter of our thinking. And it really makes a difference, because I often talk to people who are, I've worked with quite a few high performers in my life, and often they tend to be quite caught up in their heads, trying to always figure everything out, and, caught up in the intellectual thinking or the habitual thinking patterns, the loopy thinking, and we tend to, and I say we because I used to be that person, so people treat it really seriously, like this is set in stone, this is my reality, this is how it is, this is what's happening, and And I don't find this to be true, because, just to make it kind of more real, give you an example, is that, sometimes we experience something, and in the morning we might feel really triggered by it. We might feel at, I don't know, 10 out of 10, the emotion, the anxiety, or the fear, or whatever we feel, right? And then as we go through our day, the circumstances don't change, nothing has changed, it's all exactly the same. We haven't learned anything new about this situation. And then suddenly, around about noon, we find ourselves at 5 out of 10 in terms of the emotion, the feeling about this circumstance, And then as we go later on, we might actually go and do something and we kind of completely forget about it. And at that point, we're at 0 out of 10 feeling about the situation. So this is the best example, the best illustration, actually, to show that we don't actually experience the circumstances out there. We experience our thinking about these circumstances.
That is powerful. Like, I'm thinking, you mentioned high performers. I know, from knowing you a bit and knowing your background, you were definitely part of that group of people, being a high performer, a high achiever. And I'm not so unfamiliar with that world myself, so I know a little bit about it. Is there any way for you to talk about an example from that world of high achieving, high performing, where it feels like we're experiencing our circumstances, and that might actually be a misunderstanding? Is there any way for you to expand on that?
Yeah. I think really the best example is, let's say when you're working in a really high, like high pressure, fast paced environment, it gets really stressful. Like things really get on top of you, especially if you have loads of plates spinning at the same time, and it can really get on top of you, and you feel a lot of anxiety, and you think that like your work is stressing you, and your work is so stressful, and you feel all this anxiety because of your work. Oh my goodness, I have been there. My work was there were targets, there were like really high targets, high pressure. We were on the phone with people who were under pressure, so they were kind of we were feeling that, and it really seems like it really gets on top of you. And the worst thing is that when we're in the midst of that, we try to figure things out, we try to sort things out, and it just doesn't work this way. And if we are able to actually understand that when we feel so worked up, when we feel so anxious or under pressure or whatever, we're feeling our thinking. And if we are to just take a step back for a moment, and look away from everything that's going on there, if we have this luxury to do it for a moment. Sometimes it's like literally just taking a break and taking a few deep breaths and just really kind of, take a step back for a moment. We get a little bit more clarity. And what actually happens is, when we slow down, when you take a few deep breaths, or you remove yourself from the situation for a moment, when you stop trying to figure things out through your intellectual thinking process, through this loopy thinking, you slow down, your mind slows down, and you start to drop actually into the deeper space. You start to connect with your deeper mind, with your creativity, with your inner wisdom, whatever you want to call it. Some people call it soul, universe, intuition, deeper mind. I like this description, or inner wisdom. And the thing is, this resource is far more powerful than our intellect that is trying to usually run the show when we're in this panic mode. So when we slow down, when we remove ourselves a little bit from the situation, our mind clears, it slows down, and we start to get fresh thought, not the habitual thought, not the stale thought. We get fresh thought from the deeper mind, and we start to see the situation more clearly. We start to the problems don't seem so problematic suddenly. In fact, I would argue that very often the problems only exist because we think they exist. The situations are neutral. It's just our thinking about the situation, the scenarios we start to create in our heads, and usually we create the worst case scenarios. Sounds familiar? Yeah. When we go into this anxious mode, our mind wants to protect us. Our ego wants to protect us, because that's the role of the ego and our rational mind, to figure things out. It's not like it doesn't have a role and place in our life. It's just sometimes we tend to actually use it too much, rely on it too much, and completely forget that there is this far more powerful resource within us, that it's not the information that we accumulate from out there, it's actually within us. We always have access to it if we allow ourselves to have access to it. And then when we do, the problems just solve themselves out often, or we just know what to do. There's more lightheartedness in it, there's more distance. We don't have to treat it so seriously when we understand how it actually works.
All right, so there were several things that you said, and the high achiever inside of me instantly went like, cool. How do I do that? Like, how do I slow my mind down? How do I connect with my inner wisdom? Like, is there anything you can talk to when it comes to? I mean, because you said when you slow things down, you connect. You can connect to your inner wisdom. You gain clarity, and problems don't seem as problematic. How do we do that? Like, everything seems so real when it's happening.
It does. So I feel the actual key there is the understanding. The understanding how things work. The nature of how we create our reality, and also I suppose maybe that's the good space to drop the fact that we are spiritual. We have this deep resource within us, and when we know it, when we really connect with it, then we stop to be so afraid of our emotions and our thinking. We treat it more with more lightness, and and it takes practice. It takes but before doing anything, it's actually not doing, it's understanding. It's not a technique, it's not a a few step process, it's not a tool, it's actually understanding. And when we understand it, and also when we understand the spiritual nature of us, but also the spiritual nature of the reality, it starts to makes a difference. It gets us grounded, and it's when we really connect with this resource, we are able to see how it works in situations. We are able to see how emotions just run through us and they disappear. The thoughts that appear in our mind and our come to our consciousness, they also disappear. They appear and they disappear if we don't give them more power, if we don't think about it too much. So in simple terms, a thought creates emotion. And what we tend to do when we feel a strong emotion, we go and try to figure this out. And this is like what psychology tells us, what therapy tells us, what like traditional kind of Freudian approaches to psychology tell us that, if you're feeling the feelings, don't run away from the feelings, but like name the feelings and figure out your feelings. And then when you figure them out, you'll be able to deal with your feelings and emotions better, But actually, what I'm finding to be true is it's not the way it works. You don't have to figure out the feelings and emotions, because the moment you feel an emotion and you try to figure it out, you actually go back to more thinking about it, and very often not only do we try to figure out the emotion, like name the emotion and then where it came from, we then go to like, so where does it come from in my childhood? Or like, what pattern do I have and where does it always appear? And this is what happens in therapy, right? Like we start to kind of dig deeper into these things and, bring in a little bit more complexity and confusion and maybe even more trauma back to our lives, and but also we start to create a meaning about, like, so when I'm feeling this emotion, what does it mean about me? And then what does it mean about my life? And then how long is it gonna last? Oh, it feels so scary, I need to get rid of it. So what do I do now to get rid of it? Do I now try to think myself positive and try to do a technique and try to go and meditate? Or maybe I then like, often when we don't understand it, it then starts to translate into a behavior, so it goes from thought to emotion, and then it goes to the behavior. And we do it innocently because we want to get rid of that uncomfortable emotion. We try to change this discomfort, but if we know that actually emotion is just energy that runs through us, it's energy in motion, let's say. Okay, it's gonna run through us, and without our work, any effort that we do without actually doing anything, it's going to pass. Then we don't have to do anything, we don't need any strategies, we just need to allow it and understand it, how it works, and that's it.
So again, it sounded very much like where we started this conversation about, like, from what I shared, that the nature of thought is what you think about expands, like what you think about grows, and you talked about that. What you well, what you water will grow, or you focus on will grow. Um, it sounded very much like that. Like the more you get into the problem, like the more you think about it, the more you try to figure it out and overcome it or fight it, dissect it, the more you do that, the bigger the problem becomes.
It
Did
does.
I? Yeah.
Yeah, no, you got it totally right, Adam. And also, what really happens is it starts to feel more and more heavy, and when you have loads of distorted thinking, because if you have loads of thinking about something, it like your perspective becomes really narrow. Like you start to narrow down, your vision is narrow, so that you don't see the bigger picture. You just look at this problem and you go deeper and deeper into it. It's really difficult to then see a way out of it, to see possibilities when you think about the problem, to see any solutions. And from that place, it's really difficult to when we have this heavy emotion, because the heavier the thinking, the heavier the emotion. When you have heavy emotion overcome you, no one gets really smarter from that, no one gets creative from that place. So it just doesn't make sense to go and think about it more. Just
Yeah.
just leave it, just leave the problem for a moment, as I said before. And I'm not saying that we should be ignoring the problems and escaping our problems, or just not dealing with them ever. I'm not saying that. What I mean is, when we actually leave it for a little bit and gain some fresh perspective, gain a little bit more, space, and we allow for this, our mind slows down, we allow for this creative, fresh thought, we actually come back to the situation with completely fresh eyes, and we start to see it differently, as I said before.
Now, I can definitely relate to that. Like, I've often said that, like, I have this practice where I can work on something really intensely in my mind. Like, I can be drawing up something on my tablet, on my computer, and I'll work on it intensely. I'll focus on it. And after a certain time, I will say, right, done. And I will push away from the desk, and I will go out to run. And I'll be about, out for about 45 or 50 minutes or so. And during that run, like, so this is my process. As I'm running and I'm not listening to music, I'm just checking in with myself, checking in with my breath and hearing my steps, all those kinds of things, being more in tune with nature. Ideas come to me, like, things I couldn't see from working harder on the thing I was working on flow to me almost naturally. And so coming back home, I always have, I don't run with my phone, which could be bad, because if I actually hurt myself, I'd be stuck out there. But anyway, as soon as I get back home, I grab my phone. It's close to the door, because I need to capture all my ideas. And I've sometimes said going for those runs are like paying a coach like $2,000 for a couple of months' work, because the value that I can have from that 45, 50-minute run is something I'd be willing to pay someone $2,000 for. So, like, not is it just good for me? It's also very valuable for my business and growing my business on a personal level, but of course as an individual as well. So
Yeah.
it's like, I can do all that hard work, and I'm a very mind focused, oriented person. I'm very strong that way. And I've noticed when I step away, then I allow things to find its natural rhythm. Like, when I'm not trying to do things, sometimes that's the best way forward.
Exactly. Yeah. But I actually want to give you an example, because you asked me before about the example.
Yeah.
I was kind of thinking about my old work in the corporate world, how it looks, but also what came to mind is an example of one of my clients I'm currently working with. She is a leader in healthcare. She works in a hospital, and she manages a team in the respiratory ward. So as you can imagine, they're very busy, and there's a lot of pressure there at the moment. So actually, a few weeks back, she shared this story with me. That so we've been obviously working together on this understanding, and she shared with me that a few weeks ago she had the most challenging shift in her, I don't know, about 15 years career in healthcare and working, in nursing. Because they were full capacity, and there were, new patients coming in, and they didn't have beds, and everyone in her team were coming to her with some problems, asking for, for help, or so basically a chaos. If you think about it. I remember she said she was supposed to be on this shift from 12 to 8, and she had to stay from 12 till 2 o'clock. So 14-hour shift. And she said, you know what? I have never been so present and calm and composed in my life, in my work, and it's been the most challenging shift. So what she said, so I said, so tell me more about it, what actually happened. And she said, I was dealing with everything that was coming at me moment by moment. There was no thinking process, no like a conscious thinking process in a way of, okay, so I'm going to now think about it, what's going to happen and what I need to do in the next few hours ahead, like what's the priorities. No, she said, I knew what to do moment by moment. My wisdom was just like, there was something deeper within me that was telling me what to do with every single situation that was coming at me, with people who were asking me questions, or with the situations with patients, like with all this chaos. And she said, yes, I was tired. I was, obviously it's a long shift and very intense, but she said I was emotionally all together, and she actually said, it felt like I was observing everything from the outside, almost like having out of body experience, like you're observing what's going on out there, but you're not involved in it emotionally, intellectually, and it doesn't mean you detach yourself. When you're able to be so present and be in the moment and let your deeper mind, your deeper wisdom work and tell you what to do, you don't actually have to use this, conscious intellectual process, your rational mind kind of process to figure things out. You just know what to do. You're guided, you're more sharp, you're more switched on, you're more present, and you just deal better with everything. So that's just the most beautiful example that I can give you from my recent work.
That is definitely a powerful example. And yeah, it sounds to me like this is something we all would like to access, something we all would like to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Is it something you learn, or how do you develop this? How do you get
Mm-hmm.
to that place?
So again, I would say it takes understanding at first. When you understand that that's your nature, that's the spiritual nature. The spiritual nature, our spiritual nature means that we have access to this wisdom that is not ours. It's universal. It's connected to the source. And what I was talking about, the spiritual nature of the reality, is, I believe, in non-duality and oneness. Okay, we are all one on on the human level. We are all different. We have our individual stories and upbringing and education and conditioning and cultural, ways of doing things. So we are very different, and obviously, due to our experiences in lives, we all that makes us really unique on our human level. But actually, what's behind it on the spiritual level, on the level of divinity, as I like to call it, we are all one. We are all the same, and we are all connected, not just as humans, but we're connected with everything that exists, everything out there. So it's like our humanity is actually contained within the spiritual, like the spirit, the oneness, this one energy of everything that is like pure consciousness, pure love, and this wisdom that we have within us, that we are always connected to, comes from that place, and it's always available to us. So it's not actually learned. It's at first it needs to be understood. We need to actually just understand it, not on intellectual level, but actually understand that this is who we are. And as the more we understand it, the more we go and test it in life, by, for example, not trying to figure out, complex problems as they seem complex, just taking a step back and what I described before. This is how you start to see it. You actually get an insight. You start to feel it and understand it on you internalize it, and as you see it, then you're able to use it more and more, because you have evidence of it. You trust this force within you, this resource within you.
So you said, like, this is very, very close to what I believe and often say as well. We are this massive, big oneness, uh, and the way I often talk about this is like, you're not the thing you can observe. So if you can observe your emotions, if you can observe what you're feeling right now, then you're not your feelings, right? Because you're the thing looking at those feelings. Now, if you can observe your thinking, you're clearly not your thinking either, because you can observe your thoughts. So you're that thing looking into those thoughts. And the question is, then what are we? Because like the further away you go, like you can observe a lot of things. And I don't even pretend to know what we are. All I do know is we are something way bigger than what we think we are. And and sometimes that can be confusing, that can even be scary. But a lot of times I've found it to be comforting because there's
Mm.
something in that, you know, spirituality or divinity where it's just like I'm so much bigger than this game that we play. And yeah, I kind of like, you know, that resonated with me in a way there,
Mm.
that we are
Yeah.
not, we're not just these humans, we are actually something way bigger than that.
Exactly. You know, actually, it just reminded me of an insight that I had in September. I was on holiday in Poland. I was very lucky to get on holiday before the, you know, the quarantine and everything started again in kind of in autumn time. So I was in Poland, sitting by the river on my own, and really kind of deep in thought. I was kind of processing certain things, you know, actually reflecting, not really, you know, thinking, just reflecting on things. And I was kind of asking myself, really, who am I? You know, I actually like to do this self-inquiry and just ask and not even answer, just really ponder, you know, who am I? What's the nature? What's my deeper nature? And I just had this insight. I heard this voice in my head, or had this thought that said, you are nothing and you are everything. And it got me so curious, because I was like, that wasn't definitely my thought, you know. I like, because I don't even know what it means, you know. And then I looked into it, and it actually just exactly um illustrates, or you know, it connects with this you know, this fact that we are human and we are divine. So and you know, it's very humbling to think that we are, so this nothing, how I see it is that actually all our problems, all the things, all the situations that we get so caught up in day to day, you know, they're nothing, because actually they disappear, they change, like everything changes in this, you know, in this human realm. Everything changes, like nothing is constant. So actually it's nothing, it doesn't exist, you know, it comes and goes, and we don't have to treat it so seriously. And you know, it doesn't matter, because it really is all created through our thought, and thought is, it dissipates, it's elusive, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, we are everything, because we are connected to this oneness. So we are, you know, we are the same energy as everything that exists, you know, this allness. And it's powerful, it's really powerful to know it, you know.
It is. And I think it's a perfect, that's a perfect description or explanation to maybe how, you know, the topic came about to be on my top of mind when I wanted you on the show. You know, what's beyond the human space, and you've described that, you've talked about that in such a beautiful way when it comes to this divinity and the understanding and the groundedness, and and I think it's just super valuable, and I kind of feel like excited. Like it calms me down, but I get really excited about it. I
Mm.
like that. I
Yeah.
we've had some people joining live actually as well. I think we had someone who knows you as well. Cheryl was here saying hello earlier.
Hi,
Guillaume,
Cheryl.
he showed up as well. My brother's here, of course, which is really cool that he tuned in. And I hope he, even though we might not have been talking so much about afterlife, we still talked about some things that are touching on the realm of spirituality, and I found that super valuable.
Mm.
So Basia, I kind of want to thank you so much for being on the show. Um, I'm also wanting to give, you know, people who watch this and will be watching this, if they want to know more, if they do want the understanding for themselves, I would imagine that maybe reaching out to you, maybe wanting to connect with you could be a way forward for them. What would be a good way for them to do so?
So I'm most active on Facebook. So I usually post everything on my personal profile, so Basia Henderson. I also have a group called Joy in Progress. I'm actually not super active there at the moment, but I have loads of resources there. So last year, when the pandemic started, I started doing weekly and then bi-weekly webinars for that community, and now all these calls are there to people can watch it. And actually I talk there mostly exactly about what we talked here about, just a little bit deeper. Obviously on every call we explored an aspect of it. So if anyone wants to find out more, they can go to that group, Joy in Progress, or connect with me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram, again, Basia Henderson, and on LinkedIn as well. So yeah, feel free to connect with me.
I think that's perfect. I really love the fact that you have this Facebook group. I know of it. I'm in it. I think it's a brilliant place to find answers to some of the questions I've been asking here today. Also to connect with you. And those resources that you've put together, I think are brilliant. And there's just this free group on Facebook. You go in and you have access to it. I think that's just brilliant. And let me just say this as well. At the end of last year, you created this Blessings in Disguise series where you interviewed 12 plus people about 2020 and how sometimes the things we perceive as bad are actually blessings in disguise. Now, we might not have the time to really get into that, but I feel it's super valuable for everybody to know that that is a beautiful series that you put together. The people you talk to are brilliant in what they do. I happen to be allowed to be one of them, so I'm biased. If they want to connect with that show, is there any way for them to access it?
Yes, so all the episodes, all 12 episodes are actually on my personal Facebook profile, also in the group, and also they are on YouTube. I think I have to upload the last 2 episodes, but there are 12 episodes. There were amazing conversations. Loved my conversation with you on that show as well. And yes, I had lots of good feedback, and I heard from people that they got really inspired. And I think this is a time when people actually really need a little bit hope and inspiration and ideas. And I just loved that I could provide it for people at the end of last year. Thank you for mentioning. Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for creating the show. Thank you for having me on. And thank you for providing that inspiration and that hope to people, because I think now is a great time for it. So yeah, thank you very much, Basia, for being on my show. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your understanding. And I thought it was super valuable, and I'm sure people who tuned in had the same experience. So I'd love to have you on in the future. Maybe we can go deeper into some of this, what we talked about, or even there was something you mentioned about, the afterlife and reincarnation and stuff like that. Maybe that would be a topic to go deeper into, like an amateur evening talking about it.
Come back here.
All right.
But thank you so much, Adam, for having me. I loved this conversation, and thank you for creating this show, because I know many people will benefit from it as well.
Thank you very much, Basia. Be well. Right, so friends, I hope this was useful. It was super valuable to me. I intend to make these life switch shows super value packed and hopefully slightly entertaining. And today was a beautiful conversation. Before I go, I want to say a few things in terms of, like, if you like this show, make sure that you subscribe here on YouTube, or that you follow and like the page on Facebook. These days there is actually also a webpage for this show. It's called lifeswitchshow.com. If you go to that one right now, you're not going to see anything because it's blank. It's a work in progress, you can say, but it's going to be up very soon. So if you want to do that, just hit subscribe, like, follow on any of those platforms. And don't forget to share this with people you think will benefit from this. So next week I'll be talking to, and there is a slight program change. Might be news for my team. We're going to be talking to Andrea Endres, who is my partner in crime and in life, and we're going to be talking to her about how to leave, well, basically how to transcend from being a nomad to becoming a digital nomad. Now, there's going to be more information about that in any of these platforms. So catch that episode, which is going to be next week, Wednesday, 6 p.m. London time. One more thing before we go. I just want to make sure that you understand that this is, here we go. I'm not going to try to, there. That's the team who made this show happen today. So that's Cruise Creative Agency. James and Agatha, I really wanted to make a big shout out to these guys who put this show together and made it look this beautiful. Without them, this would not have happened. So thank you very much for doing this. And guys, anyone who joined live today, anyone who's catching this replay, I really honor you. I really appreciate you. And I hope I catch you next week. Bye.